Practical Guide to Psychic Readers. 3rd edition. By David M. Netzorg, MS Copyright 2023 David M. Netzorg All rights reserved. Table of Contents. Chapter 1. What can you do, when you, Chapter 2. When the usual advisors are not enough. Chapter 3. A psychic reader can be a useful alternative. Chapter 4. Which psychic reader should you consult? Chapter 5. Is this reader really psychic? Chapter 6. How a real psychic reader gets good results. Chapter 7. Try this test. Chapter 8. Ask the psychic reader to tell you. Chapter 9. 2 prerequisites. Chapter 10. How the psychic reader finds your questions and your answers. Chapter 11. The word see is shorthand for the word perceive. Chapter 12. What if you feel that it is not working? Chapter 13. Distortion on the way up. Chapter 14. Before you hire a psychic reader, do this first. Chapter 15. How to do it yourself. Chapter 16. An added advantage of doing it yourself. Chapter 17. Finally. Chapter 1. What can you do, when you? What can you do, when you have an important question but you can't find a satisfying answer? And what can you do when you feel so lost that you're not even sure what question to ask? These situations arise often, especially when dealing with personal questions about love, relationships, money, career, family members, alive or departed, health, spiritual path, vocation, plans for the future, resolving the past, realms beyond the earth plane, channeling, centering, grounding, etc. Chapter 2. When the usual advisors are not enough. Sometimes, you can get valuable help from the usual advisors. Friends, family, and mainstream professionals. But they have their limits. Note: mainstream professionals are psychologists, psychiatrists, clergy, social workers, guidance counselors, doctors, teachers, lawyers, etc. The main problem with consulting friends, family, or mainstream professionals is their answers are almost always aimed at helping you to become what they want you to be, instead of helping you to become what you yourself want to be. Another very major problem with consulting friends, family, or mainstream professionals is this. They usually have a very limited view of what is real and what is possible. And they usually refuse to take you seriously when you ask them to discuss something that they consider to be unreal or impossible or foolish, or illusory or delusional, or just in your head, etc. Usually, if you ask friends, family, or mainstream professionals for help with an aspect of your life that they do not give credence to, then they might be willing to help you stop your involvement with that aspect of life. But they are almost never willing to take you seriously and help you find a way to stay with it and deal with it in a satisfying way. If you reach the limits of the help that you can get from friends, family, and mainstream professionals, and you still are not satisfied, then you can shut up and live with it, or you can step out into the wider world, where the risks may be greater, but the rewards can be a lot greater too. In the wider world, hope is still alive. So carpe diem. Seize the day. Chapter 3. A psychic reader can be a useful alternative when you need help in finding answers to your question, or when you are not even sure what your question is, and you can't get what you need from friends, or family, or mainstream professionals. Then a psychic reader can be a useful alternative. Because a good psychic reader looks for the truth without judging you. But which psychic reader should you consult? And how do they do it? And why can't you do it for yourself? Continue reading and you will find out. Chapter 4. Which psychic reader should you consult? Which psychic reader is most likely to be able to help you? If you don't already have your own psychic reader with a track record of being able to help you get answers to your pressing questions, then you will soon learn two things. 1. Psychic readers exist in abundance. But they are not always easy to find. And 2. It is not always easy to know in advance which psychic reader is right for you. After you find one, you need to explore their qualifications before hiring. How to find a psychic reader for you. 1. Look around you, wherever you are. 2. Ask friends, acquaintances and strangers for referrals. 3. Look on internet websites, such as Google.com, YouTube.com, BodyMindSpiritGuide.com, Body Mind Spirit Directory, ORG American Association of Psychics.com. 4. Go to psychic fairs. 5. Look in the media, including TV, magazines, radio, newspapers, books. 6. Ask higher power for guidance. 7. And so on. Many of the best psychic readers keep a very low profile. They want their privacy, so they avoid publicity. They get all of their new clients by word of mouth. To find them, you need to know somebody who knows them and is willing to talk. And of course, the best psychic readers often have a long waiting list. But if you really do want to consult a good psychic reader, and if you really are willing to hear the truth, and if you persist in your search, then eventually you will find a psychic reader who is right for you. Once you have found a psychic reader who appears to be a likely prospect, you will need to vet them the same way you would any other prospective employee. Chapter 5. Is this reader really psychic? How do you know if a reader who says she is psychic really is psychic? A. Some readers say that they are psychic, and they really are psychic. B. Some good psychic readers never say that they are psychic. They have learned that life is easier and simpler if they don't tell anyone they are psychic. Instead, they say that their ability to help comes from other factors, such as a good education, things they have read in books, common sense, a lot of experience with life, being a good listener, etc. C. Sometimes a person does not know that she is helping others by psychic means, so she does not call herself a psychic. D. Some people who say that they are psychic are really not psychic at all. D1. Some good advisors who are not psychic find that they can make more money, and get more customers, and be more helpful too, if they call themselves psychic readers and give out the exact same information they gave out before they started calling themselves psychics. D2. Some other non-psychic people who call themselves psychics are just incompetent liars. It takes all kinds to make this world. So caveat emptor. Let the buyer beware. What if the reader is not a real psychic? Well, how can you tell that she is not? There are no outward signs that a person is psychic. There is no way to know for certain what a person can do for you. All that you can know for certain is what the person does do for you, or does not do for you. So in the end, you need to make the best choice you can, based on the available evidence, and then try that person out and see what happens. Chapter 6. How a real psychic reader gets good results. We are considering the situation where you have an important question but you can't find a satisfying answer. Or you feel so lost that you are not even sure what question to ask. Before you go out seeking the right psychic reader to help you with that, it will help you to know the basics of how it works at the deepest level. How a real psychic reader gets good results. Some psychic readers appear to use one or more special methods. Cards, crystals, trance, gaze, helper entities, such as spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, Jesus, and so on. On the other hand, Some good psychic readers appear to use no special method at all. They just speak out. All of the approaches are the same at the root, even though they look so different on the surface. Here is how it works. As soon as your mind asks a question, highest power places the answer into your mind. Without any delay. Highest power is inexhaustibly generous. Sometimes the answer is placed near the surface of your mind, where it is easy for you to perceive it. But often the answer is placed in the depths of your mind, so deep down that you can't perceive it. A good psychic reader looks into your mind to find A. Your question, and B. The answer to your question. The psychic reader might believe that she is doing something else. But in the end the process always boils down to that. The psychic reader looks into your mind to find your question and the answer to your question. All of your questions are in your own mind. And all of the answers show up in your own mind too. The answers are in your own mind, delivered straight from highest power, the source of all answers. If you were clearly in touch with the deeper parts of your own mind, and if you were willing to see what is there, and if you could understand what you saw, then you would not need a psychic reader. You would see the question and the answer on your own. And you would understand the answer on your own. Being able to do it on your own would save you the time and money needed for other approaches. That would leave you with more time and money to use for other things. It could also leave you with a far more satisfying life in general. Most importantly, eventually it would lead you to real spiritual enlightenment. Yes, spiritual enlightenment is a natural state of life. The only problem is, at present, you are not clearly in touch with the deeper parts of your own mind. Or you are in touch but you are not willing to notice what is there. Or you are in touch and you are willing to notice, but you don't understand what you notice. Chapter 7. Try this test. Quietly and sincerely ask highest power a question. The answer is always delivered immediately, into your mind. If you are willing to notice the answer but you are not able to notice the answer. Or if you are willing and able to notice the answer, but you are not able to understand it, then you can get assistance from a good psychic reader. Chapter 8. Ask the psychic reader to tell you. A good psychic reader can see your questions and answers without getting any permission from you. But ordinarily she will not do anything to find your questions and answers and tell you about them until you ask to be told. With a good psychic reader, it is just like with a close friend. They know more about you than you know about yourself. But they will not tell you unless you ask. It is the polite thing to do. Even when you ask, they will only tell you if two prerequisites are present. 1. They must feel safe and comfortable about telling you what they see in your mind, and telling you what it means. 2. You must be truly willing to receive and absorb what they tell you. The next chapter gives details about those two prerequisites. Chapter 9. 2 prerequisites. In order to make sure that the process is most beneficial to all concerned, a good psychic reader usually does not tell you anything significant about your questions and answers until 2 things have happened. First, the psychic reader must feel safe and comfortable. Safe and comfortable about telling you what they see in your mind. And safe and comfortable about telling you what it means. The psychic reader must feel that telling you what she has found in you will not produce a big reaction in you that can reflect back at her and might overwhelm her. The psychic reader must feel safe and comfortable with her own level of ability to maintain balance and neutrality while tuned into your mind and surrounded by the turbulent rush and swirl of your energies. If they do become turbulent, rushing and swirling. Second, you must be truly willing to receive and absorb what they tell you. You must be truly willing to hearing the psychic reader tell you what she has found in your mind, and truly willing to absorb it. Even if hearing it and absorbing it causes you to feel intense emotions of satisfaction, or intense emotions of dissatisfaction, and B. Even if it does not affect you the way you expected it to affect you, and C. Even if it is not what you expected to hear or not what you wanted to hear. Again, more briefly. To get good results. 1. The psychic reader must feel safe and comfortable, and 2. You must be truly willing to receive and absorb what the psychic reader tells you. If those two prerequisites are not happening, then a good psychic reader might talk with you for some time, but she won't tell you much, if anything, about your questions and their answers. On the other hand, if those two prerequisites are happening, then a good psychic reader can immediately start telling you the questions and answers that are in your mind, and she can usually keep on going for a long time. A good psychic reader can find your questions and answers without asking you any questions and without you saying anything at all to them. But usually the psychic reader does ask you questions and does let you talk. Just to help you feel more comfortable and more open to receive. Chapter 10. How the psychic reader finds your questions and your answers. Your questions are already there in your mind. When the psychic reader looks in your mind, the questions are sitting there, waiting to be perceived. Your answers are already there in your mind too. Thousands of copies of each question and answer can be there, stored up in your mind. One question-answer pair for every time your mind asked the question and an answer arrived. Again and again, throughout your life. You ask a question and highest power delivers the answer into your mind immediately after you ask the question. If you are not able to notice an answer when it is delivered, then the delivered answer is stored away safely in your mind, waiting for the time when you finally become able to get access to it and understand it. Most people have many questions. And most people ask each question many times. Every time a question is repeated, the answer comes back again. One answer for each time the question is asked. And each new copy of the answer adds to the pile or cloud of answers that have been delivered in the past. Again. All of your questions, and the answers to all of them, are already in your mind, waiting to be noticed and understood. If your mind is quiet and orderly, then the questions and answers lie sorted into piles or clouds. One pile or cloud for all of the copies of a question. And one pile or cloud for all of the copies of the answer to that question. And the pile or cloud of answers is near to the pile or cloud of questions. That's what happens if your mind is quiet and orderly. At the other extreme, if your mind is swirling and disorderly, then the copies of the questions and their answers get picked up by the mind currents and get tossed together and mixed around. Then it takes some sorting to find a specific question-answer pair. But if all you want to know is, tell me some of my questions or tell me some of my answers, then a good psychic reader can start reeling them off to you almost immediately. What about the questions that only arise a few times? And what about a new question, never asked before? How does a good psychic find those kinds of questions and their answers? As soon as you ask a question, highest power shoots the answer right back, without any delay. To see just one single cycle of that question-answer process, a quieter mind is needed, both in the psychic and in you. If the quietness is available, then it is just a matter of watching the question form and sail away. And watching the answer return, take form and congeal. Those things are happening all the time anyway. But if your mind is quiet, then there are fewer events going on in your mind at one time, making it much easier for the psychic reader to note the individual events. If your own mind is busy as a bee, the psychic reader needs to have a mind that is very quiet so she can keep track of more events at the same time. and pick out the single question-answer pair of interest. If you are not able to have a quiet mind, then the next best situation is to have a mind that is at least focused on this question more than on other questions. Then you just let your mind focus on the one question for a while. The question gets sent out many times in a few seconds, and it is easy for the psychic reader to notice the stream of identical questions going out, and to notice the stream of identical answers coming back in response. Chapter 11. The word see is shorthand for the word perceive. The phrases see a question and see an answer are just metaphors, just figures of speech. Although it is very common to notice the question and the answer as seen visions, the questions and answers can also be noticed via hearing, smell, taste, touch, intuition, or any other sensory machinery that a psychic reader, or her helper, has. This is because, at the most basic level, every answer exists as an almost pure, almost undifferentiated pattern of subtle energy. That subtle energy pattern carries the answer in all of its potential forms. So, each psychic reader picks up the answer using the sensory machinery that is strongest in her. Then the psychic reader translates the answer she perceives into a communication that you can understand at your present level of awareness. The answer is contained in the subtle energy pattern that arrives in your mind. If the psychic reader works without a helper, then the psychic reader channels the subtle energy pattern of the answer through her mind-body complex, translating it into terms that you can perceive and understand. If the psychic reader works with the aid of a helper, then the helper picks up the subtle energy pattern of the answer, translates it into a less subtle energy pattern that the psychic reader is able to pick up. And then the psychic reader channels that pattern through her mind-body complex, translating it into terms that you can perceive and understand. The same is true for the question in your mind. The question is stored as an almost pure, almost undifferentiated pattern of subtle energy, and it is channeled from the depths of your mind through the mind-body complex of the psychic reader, or through the helper to the mind-body complex of the reader, translating it into terms that you can perceive and understand. Summary: the energy pattern goes into the psychic reader, or into the helper, in the very subtle form that the energy pattern has in the depths of your mind. Then a translation process happens inside the helper, if there is one, and then inside the reader. And out of the reader pops the message that is contained in the energy pattern, in a form that you can perceive and understand. The message pops out to you in the form of words or sounds or emotional expression, or telepathic transmission, or in whatever form the inner machinery of the reader and helper decides you will understand best. It never fails, when working with a really good psychic reader, as long as the two prerequisites for good results are present during the process, as said before. 1. The psychic reader must feel safe and comfortable. 2. You must be truly willing to receive and absorb what the psychic reader tells you. Chapter 12. What if you feel that it is not working? What if you don't feel satisfied enough with what you are receiving from the psychic reader? First, check yourself. Are you truly willing to receive and absorb the psychic reader's report of your questions and your answers? If you are not truly willing to receive and absorb, then don't expect much. Unless you can find a psychic reader who is able and willing to greatly increase the power level of her communication to you, enough to push the channeled questions and answers past the barriers created by your unwillingness to receive and absorb. Most psychic readers are not willing to push that hard. And they are also not willing to go through the work of shielding themselves from the surge of energy that will come blasting back at them when you attempt to resist. Next, if you are doing your part, but you are not receiving a satisfying enough result, then either the reader does not feel safe and comfortable, or she is not really a psychic. Either way, there is only a limited amount that you can do about it, in order to make the situation satisfying enough for you. If the reader really is psychic, but does not feel safe and comfortable in her work with you, the best thing for her to do is to stand aside, and make way for someone else who is able to feel safe and comfortable in working with you. Sometimes, the most you might be willing to do in that situation is to treat the reader as courteously as you treat anyone else when you say goodbye. If you don't have anyone better to help you, and if you do think she has some potential of being a good channel, then it might be worthwhile to stick with her and find ways to help her feel safe and comfortable so she can work with you productively. What if the reader is not a real psychic? Well, how can you tell she is not? There are no outward signs that a person is psychic. There is no way you can know for certain what a person could do for you. All that you can know for certain is what the person does do, or does not do. Summary. If you have provided your share of the prerequisites, but the reader does not produce good results, then it is time for you to say goodbye politely, and look for a more satisfying psychic reader. Unless this one looks like the best one you can find, and you are willing to go on and see if you can help her to feel more safe and comfortable. Chapter 13. Distortion on the way up. Even when a psychic reader is reading your questions and answers at the depths of your mind, and even though you like what she reports to you, there is still a chance that she is not really giving you a true picture of what is in your mind. A psychic reader is just a reporter. She picks up energy patterns in the depths of your mind and converts them into messages that the surface of your mind can comprehend and use. Some psychic readers do that job better than others. They see clearly and report clearly. Clear channel all the way. Those psychic readers are in the minority. The rest of the psychic readers have weaknesses, and the message gets distorted to some extent during the channeling process. If you are lucky, the amount of distortion is minor, and all of the important parts of the answer and the question come through, even though the details might be a little off. But, often enough, the message that the psychic reader delivers to your surface mind is much different than the message that is in the subtle energy pattern at the depths of your mind. In that case, the psychic reader did connect with the subtle energies of your question and your answer at the depths of your mind. But the energies of the question and answer got turned into different messages during the translation process. As the energy patterns passed through the psychic reader's mind-body complex, on the way from the psychic reader's deep mind to her surface mind, the patterns did not just get translated into understandable messages. They also got translated into just plain different messages, with little or no similarity to the originals. So, when dealing with a psychic reader, as with any guide, it helps to keep your wits about you and have some common sense. Chapter 14. Before you hire a psychic reader, do this first. Before you hire a psychic reader, see what you can do on your own. You might be surprised. It is useful to have a good psychic reader available to help you discover and understand the contents of your own mind. But why depend on someone else for a service that you can perform for yourself, once you learn how? To know your own mind is a natural thing, and a very easy thing too. Once you become willing to perceive and understand what is there. You are a human. And every human has built-in natural psychic powers. We are all naturals. Once you develop skill in perceiving and understanding the questions and answers in your own mind, using your own built-in natural psychic powers, you will never need to hire a psychic reader ever again. If you want to continue to hire psychic readers anyway, just because you enjoy it, or in order to compare what they see in your mind with what you see there, then of course you are free to do that. But using a psychic reader will no longer be your only way to get at your questions and answers. Chapter 15. How to do it yourself. First, quietly and sincerely ask highest power for the assistance that you need. Quietly and sincerely say to highest power, 1. Please teach me to see the questions and answers residing in the deeper parts of my own mind. 2. Please teach me to be willing to see the questions and answers residing in the deeper parts of my own mind. 3. Please teach me to understand what I see. If that request for direct guidance from highest power do not bring satisfying results, then ask highest power to send you a qualified teacher to teach you how to do those 3 things. Some people use the word praying as a name for the just described method of asking highest power for help. But many people are not comfortable with the word praying, because they associate the word praying with some hypocritical and abusive religious organizations that use the word pray. But remember what the great poet Shakespeare wrote. What's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Don't let a name get in your way. The important thing is the useful method, not the name you use to label the method. So set yourself free and just give the method a name that is comfortable for you. Some people call it praying, but other people call it opening to receive, or asking, or conscious contact, or channeling, or communing with the One, etc. Chapter 16. An added advantage of doing it yourself. There is a very valuable added advantage that you get by perceiving and understanding what is going on in your own mind, without the services of a psychic reader. When you can perceive the subtle energy patterns at the depths of your own mind, then you will have a more direct connection with highest power. And that connection is extremely satisfying in and of itself. All of the answers come into your mind directly from highest power. The psychic reader just finds your questions and answers in your mind and reports them to you in a way that you can understand them. All of the knowledgeable and honest psychic readers will tell you that they are not being modest, they are just telling the truth. All of the answers come from highest power, and they get delivered into your mind as subtle energy patterns. Once you develop skill in perceiving the energy patterns of the answers that come from highest power, you will start to notice the energy patterns as they arrive in your mind. Next, almost before you know it, you will start to notice the path that the answers take, as they flow from highest power to the delivery place in your mind. When you notice the path that the energy patterns take, as they flow from highest power to the delivery place in your mind, it is just the most natural thing in the world to let your attention follow that path back to its source, and join with highest power as one. When you join with highest power as one, all of your questions go away. And what remains of you is infinitely better than what you have now. Life becomes easier and more satisfying. You don't have to do that right now, if you don't want to, but always remember what is available to you. Chapter 17. Finally, remember, once you have your own direct connection with highest power, all of your questions go away. And what's left is infinitely better than what you have now. Life becomes easier and more satisfying. The end. Notice: the content of this publication is intended for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, medical or any other advice or counseling for which professional license is required. The author and the publisher are not responsible for any decisions you make based upon your use of this publication. You use this publication of your own free will, guided by your own values and common sense. Use of this publication indicates complete acceptance of the terms above. R3.50M